I ran across this cool clip on Stokely Carmicheal the other day. He had did an interview in 1966 on CBS on a show called Face the Nation. Now, what he was saying, I believe, is still relevant and pertinent to us today. So I'm gonna play this clip, let y'all check that out, and I'm gonna come back and we're gonna chop it up.
From CBS Washington, Face the Nation, a spontaneous and unrehearsed news interview with Stokely Carmicheal, National Chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Mr. Carmicheal will be questioned by CBS News correspondent John Hart, James S. Doyle of the Boston Globe. To lead the questioning, CBS News correspondent Martin Negronsky. We shall resume the interview with Mr. Carmicheal in just a moment.
Mr. Carmicheal, you say that you would achieve black power by using the franchise, by using the vote. Yet you've also said that your organization in Lowndes County, while out to take power legally, if it were stopped by the government from doing it illegally, and I quote your words now, we're going to take it the way everyone else took it, including the many Americans took it, the way Americans took it in the American Revolution. Now, this would seem to imply that you're advocating taking power by force and violence by the overthrow, in effect, of the government. Is that what you meant?
Well, let me say this. In Lowndes County, that county is 80% black, 20% white. It's been ruled by that minority by force, by violence, and by every illegal trick that one can think of. Now, the black people in Lowndes County have organized themselves around the question and around the issue that they've been oppressed, which is their blackness. They've been oppressed because they're black. And like any other group in the country, they organize around the issue of oppression. The unions, the workers organized around the question of low wages. And that they are going to try to achieve taking over the power structure according to the democratic processes in this country. Now, if no one is willing to assure the fact that that process is carried on, then that leaves the black people of Lowndes County, it seems to me, no alternative except to stay in the condition in which they've been for the last 100 years.
Mr. Carmicheal, supposing the Black Panther Party loses the election in Lowndes County, what do you propose to do?
Yeah, well, first let me say that the name of the organization in Lowndes County is not the Black Panther Party. The symbol happens to be a Black Panther. The name is the Lowndes County Freedom Organization. I'm very concerned about that, you see, because Americans, particularly white America, have been referring to it as a Black Panther Party, and that's their problem with sex and color. They do not refer to the Alabama Democratic Party as the White Rooster Party, and that happens to be the emblem of that party. But that if they're losing, if it's a democratic process, then there's nothing that they can do. But now, if they're cheated out of the votes, then it seems to me that there must be some means for them to achieve power.
What means?
Well, that would have to develop out of the Lowndes County movement and the discussions that the people of Lowndes County want to carry on.
Mr. Carmicheal, do you reject the ultimate use of violence as a final, last resort in bringing down the power structure?
Yes, I don't organize around violence or around nonviolence. The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee organizes black people to get certain things that they have to get. Decent houses, decent jobs, decent schooling, and a right to participate in decisions that affect their lives. Now, that's what we organize for. The question of violence or nonviolence just happens to be tactical as far as we're concerned.
Well, what is your tactic as a last resort?
Well, then we'd have to decide that depending upon how stiff the resistance was in the country.
You don't reject it then?
Oh, no, I've never rejected it. No, I've never rejected it.
You don't reject violence?
No, I've never rejected violence.
You say, how can you not reject violence and be the head of the Students Coordinating Nonviolent Committee?
Nonviolence has always been a tactic with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. It has never been a way of life. We've made that clear since 1960. And that is just tactical. In my own thinking, I've never rejected anything. I don't reject a host of means.
Mr. Carmicheal, there's a lot of confusion about what you mean when you say, as you have said, I quoted you your words a moment or so ago, that if we are stopped by the government from doing it legally, we're going to take it, power that is, the way everyone else took it, including the way Americans took it in the American Revolution.
Okay, Mr.
Now, are you advocating a violent way if you can't get it legally? That's all we want to know.
This country, Mr.
All right, I'm going to cut it right there. Now, if you paid attention, there were three men against this one man. And as the last little bit of that clip pointed out, he just said, we just want to make sure you niggas ain't go get violent on us. and I'm surmising, I'm paraphrasing, but you know, the gist of what they were trying to do seems like was put him in the box, make him trip up his words, minimize what they was really standing on, and not allowing this man to really drive home the point of what he was trying to do. And notice the words of Stokely Carmicheal. He used words such as oppression, you know, and black power. And he did not denounce the violence, but he didn't say that's all that they were standing on. He said, as a tactic, we will be nonviolent. And I think that's important to point out, because we're just a few hours away from Dr. King's birthday. And they're going to play that I Have a Dream speech, and they're going to show clips of marches, and they're just going to try to drive home that, oh, Dr. King was nonviolent, and no matter what you guys go through, it should always stay that way. However, as a man that come up in that movement, speaking of Stokely Carmicheal, he didn't say that that's all that they stood on. It is a fact that Dr. King, in his before he was assassinated, he eventually got around to not necessarily standing on a violence thing. However, he was starting to understand that he had integrated his people, as he say, into a burning house. And there's a few things I didn't play on from this interview, but I might do a part 2. And really, to do it justice, it probably had to be a part 3 too, because, you know, Stokely Carmicheal talks about the integration thing, you know. And I thought what he said was probably even more important than everything that I played. But I just wanted to kind of put out there that no race of people should ever stand on only nonviolence. I'm not advocating violence. However, as many nations around the world, you eventually come to the point to, if I can't get it politically, then I'll get it, as Malcolm say, by any means necessary. Now, like I say, I'm not advocating violence or rebellions that we've seen in our neighborhoods in certain cities. But I mean, really strategic ideas to maybe push the envelope so our point can be heard, because we've had many great, eloquent speakers, dynamic speakers, educated men and women attempt on a national scale to relay and convey a message for the people. And as you've seen in this previous clip, it's like they'll trip up your words. They'll try to minimize what you're standing on, or not allow you to drive home those important points to where any logical, non-hateful, educated people could at least sympathize with a group of people that are being oppressed. However, I think systematically, these newscasters and reporters and journalists, they were intentionally being antagonistic toward the brother. But I thought he just handled himself so well, you know, and I've always been a fan of the man, but to see him in work, at work, should I say, see him really driving home those points under the pressure. Make no mistake, like I say in the beginning, it was 3 versus 1. And they said it was unrehearsed, but they had clearly an agenda to trip my man up, to make him say something, to make him sound ignorant, to just get him off his, as my pops would say, off his square. But the man stayed on it, and he stayed with it. So I just thought that was so pertinent and relevant. So I'm going to end this right now. I don't know when, but I'm going to come back with a part 2 at least, because that ain't all the brothers said, and that ain't all they did to try to trip him up. But in spite of the opposition that he was facing, the heat that he was under, the pressure he was under, man, the guy really got out the information that, like I say, is still relevant for us today. But do we really look at it that way? And have our minds been brainwashed to only think that we can march? There are other ways to combat oppression and to get our point across legally, as my brother was really pointing out. They was trying to trip him up on the violence or the non-violent thing, but he was saying, hey, man, we're going to exercise these rights under the Constitution that y'all wrote, should I say. So there it is. Tune back in. We'll chop it up some more. Hit like, subscribe, leave comments in the comment section, and let me know what y'all think.